ततो जयति नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्ति नैष्ठिकीम् कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमः ओमुद्यानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् वन्दं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्री भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने नमः हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण. So welcome all devotees for
Hare
the
Krishna.
fourth canto 30 session. So this section will be taken by Summer who was supposed to speak, but again he is having another session morning 11 to 1. So today I'm taking this part. Tomorrow we'll continue from wherever I stop. So we're discussing with this topic. We ended with 12th chapter Dhruva section. Now we're continuing with description of the descendants of Dhruva Maharaj. Sutayuvacha निशम्य कुशराभिवर्णितं ध्रुवस्य वैकुण्ठपदाधिरोहन् प्रारुद्धवो भगवत्तदोक्षजे प्रष्टुं पुनस्तं विदुरापचक्रमे. Sutta Goswami, continuing to speak to all the rishis headed by Shaunaka, said, after hearing Maitreya Rishi's description, after hearing Maitreya Rishi describe Dhruva Maharaj's ascent to Lord Vishnu's abode, Vidura became very much enlightened in devotional emotion and inquired from Maitreya as follows. So Chakravarti writes in this commentary, in the 13th chapter, King Anga gives birth to a son called Vena by sacrifice. Because of the evil nature of his son, the king becomes disgusted, leaves the kingdom. So this is the theme of this chapter, birth of Anga. Anga, son called as Vena. So in Dhruva Maharaj's descendant is Anga. Anga going to give birth to Vena, and from the body of Vena, they are going to churn out Prithu Maharaj. So this section is of Prithu Maharaj. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, as evidenced in the topic between Vidura and Maitreya, the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the devotees are so fascinating that neither the devotees who is describing them nor the devotee who is hearing is at all fatigued by the inquiries and answers. Why? Because transcendental subject matter is so nice that no one becomes tired of hearing or speaking. Others who are not devotees may think, how can people devote so much time simply to talks of God? But devotees are never satisfied or satiated in hearing and speaking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or about his devotees. The more they hear and talk, the more they become enthusiastic to hear. The chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is simply the repetition of the three words Hare, Krishna, and Rama. But still, devotees can go on chanting this Hare Krishna mantra 24 hours a day without feeling fatigued. Basically, in this purport, Prabhupada is mentioning about the importance of hearing. Prabhupada also mentions in various purports, first canto, second chapter, I think 32nd verse, 34th verse, there he mentions about hearing. Like in firewood or any of the wood, fire is innate. Inside the milk there is butter, which is innate. Similarly, in our body, subtle body, next to the subtle body, in the heart, super soul is there. It's working. Shunmata, Swakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtanat. So when we hear, by that hearing, simple process of hearing, submissive oral reception, Supreme Lord is awakened and he can give. Rather than I speaking, I'll just try to let us see, read that purport, then it becomes very clear. I'll just share that purport to all of you. Glories of hearing.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, it is fourth canto, no?
Yeah, fourth to 13th chapter.
Acha, from 13th chapter, Prabhuji. Acha, sorry.
Yes.
I was
Fourth
taking
canto,
from the
13th
first
chapter. And we are
chapter.
discussing
Okay, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
13th chapter. It's the fourth canto, 13th chapter. For the first verse, I'm just referring to Srila Prabhupada's purport. That is 1 to 32. Yes. Yes, somebody can read this. Translation. It's visible to all of you?
For me,
हाँ, शोभा लक्ष्मी माताजी और परमेश्वर माता, one of you can read.
the Lord is
Just as fire furnace wood, and so he appears to be of many varieties, though he is the absolute one without a second.
Please. You're able to see it?
Yes.
I think you need to, your sound is not coming, Mataji. Shobha Lakshmi.
Hare Krishna.
Now it's coming. Yeah, please read.
The Lord as super soul pervades all things, just as fire pervades wood, and so he appears to be of many varieties, though he is the absolute one without a second.
But
Lord Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by one of his plenary parts, expands himself all over the material world, and his existence can be perceived even within the atomic energy. matter, antimatter, antimatter, proton, neutron. In all these, one can perceive the manifestation of the Paramatma feature of the Lord by proper law.
Now we can read from here. I'll can read from here.
As from wood, fire can be manifested, or as butter can be churned out of milk, so also the presence of the Lord as Paramatma can be felt by the process of legitimate hearing and chanting of the transcendental subjects, which are especially treated in the Vedic literatures, like the Upanishads and Vedanta. Srimad Bhagavatam is the bona fide explanation of these Vedic literatures. The Lord can be realized through the oral reception of the transcendental message, and that is the only way to experience the transcendental subject. As fire is kindled from wood by another fire, the divine consciousness of man can similarly be kindled by another divine grace. This divine grace, the spiritual master, can kindle the spiritual fire from the wood like living entity by imparting proper spiritual messages injected through the receptive ear. Therefore, one is required to approach the proper spiritual master with receptive ears only, and thus divine existence is gradually realized. The difference between animality and humanity lies in this process only. A human being can hear properly, whereas an animal cannot.
So therefore, this is being told here. As fire is kindled from wood by another fire, similarly, based on the divine consciousness of a man can be kindled by another divine grace. And how is that? Like Prabhupada heard it from his guru, and therefore he wrote his Bhakti Vaibhav purports. And just by reading Prabhupada books, what is happening? The living entity, by imparting proper spiritual message injected through the receptive ear. So this is very important. The receptive ear. The person, the guru should be potent, and the disciple should be having submissive oral reception. When that happens, then the divine grace can impart the divine knowledge in the heart of a disciple. So therefore, this is the power of hearing. So it's mentioned here, imparting proper spiritual messages injected through the receptive ear. So the same thing is being discussed between Maitreya and Vidura here. So what is being discussed? As evidenced between Maitreya and Vidura, the activity of the Supreme Person of God and the devotees are so fascinating, and neither the devotee who is describing them nor the devotee who is hearing is at all fatigued by the inquiries. Why? Because the subject matter is so nice that no one becomes tired of hearing or speaking. So the very purpose of our this Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti Vaibhav course, or Bhakti Shastri courses, basically, what is the effect of proper hearing? When we can say that our hearing is become proper, when we can understand that we need to hear more. The purpose of hearing is not that you want to go back to body and that after that then you go and just sit there. The purpose of hearing is we will hear, the more and more we'll hear, we'll get to go to the spiritual world, and there we can go and more hear. The ends and the means of the hearing is the same. We hear so that we can hear more. Right now we have physical bodies, therefore we have to take rest, we have to eat, we have to sleep, we have to do things related to that. It is called as avidya in Ishopanishad, 10th, 11th verse. But once we go to the spiritual world, there is no material body. With all spiritual body, 24/7, the Jivatma does hearing, chanting. This is the essence. And therefore, this is a symptom. The more they hear and talk, the more they become enthusiastic to hear. The chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is simply the repetition of three words, Hare Krishna Rama. But still, devotees can go on chanting this Hare Krishna mantra 24 hours a day without feeling fatigued. So this is the proper conception of understanding. So Vidura Yuvacha Kete Prachetaso Nama Kashyapathyani Suvrata Kashyana Kashyan Vave Prakyatah Kutro Va Satram Asatah. Vidura inquired from Maitreya, O greatly advanced devotee, who were the Prachetas? To which family did they belong? Whose sons were they? And where did they perform the great sacrifice? Again, so on now all of us may again get a question. Right now, Dhruva sections ended, and this is going to speak about the Anga Maharaj, who's a descendant of Dhruva Maharaj, and Vena is going to come. Suddenly, Prachetas came from where? Yes, that is described by Chakravarti Path in the purport. In this previous chapter, it was mentioned that Narada recited some verses about Dhruva at the sacrifice of Prachetas. So if you can refer 4th canto, 12th chapter, 40th verse. Anvavaye means in the family. So there, the description was mentioned. Narada Muni was describing about Dhruva Maharaj to his descendants, Prachetas, who were together doing the sacrifice, who were trying to meditate. They came together and were trying to meditate for the pleasure of Lord Vishnu. So there, Narada mentions about this Dhruva. Therefore, Vidura said. So now, in the 4th and 12th chapter, 40th verse, Sukdev Goswami spoke about Narad Muni going and describing Dhruva's section, Dhruva's prayers in Pracheta's arena. So now Maitreya Vidura is asking to Maitreya, who were the Prachetas? Whose sons were they? In whose family did they become famous? And where was the sacrifice performed? Because in Dhruv section, suddenly the Prachetas word came. So now he has this question, follow-up question. Were Prachetas? Whose sons were they? Whose family did they become famous? And where was the sacrifice performed? So Prabhupada writes in the purport, the great Narada singing in the previous chapter of the 3 verses in the sacrificial arena of Prachetas gave another impetus to Vidura to ask further questions. So we can understand what kind of hearer is Vidura. So it's not that he's going to get a Bhakti Vaibhav certificate or a Bhakti Vaibhav certificate or Bhakti Shastri certificate. No, he's just hearing it because he wants to hear it. So at least when we want to hear, when we come in the forum of hearing for these courses, so our enthusiasm should be, we may not be like that, at least officially we should be eager to hear and write the exams. Exams will be there, but the purpose of this courses is on our own we can continue reading and hearing. And sometimes on our own it becomes difficult for us to read and hear. So this courses also gives us impetus so that at least we can get some higher taste by discussing these sections in the session of like-minded Vaishnavas. Manye Mahabhagavatam Naradam Devadarshanam Yene Prokta Kriya Yoga Paricharya Vidirhare. Yes. Now we can go one by one. Devotees can read translation purport. Starting from Shubha Lakshmi Mataji, then Sachin Prabhu, then Yogini Priya Mataji, and then who are there? Sachindari Mataji and Parmeshwari Mataji. And yes, hope I'm assuming those videos who are off, they are available. So Rishi Kumar Kupa and Shirvani Radhika Mataji. Yes, Shubha Lakshmi Mataji, please read.
Vidura continues, I know that the great Saint Narad is the greatest of all devotees. He has compiled the Pancharatrika procedure for devotional service and has directly met the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Should I continue?
Mataji, you can continue reading.
Purpose. There are two different ways of approaching the Supreme Lord. One is called Bhagavad Marga, on the way of Srimad Bhagavatam, and the other is called Pancharatrika Vidhi. Pancharatrika Vidhi is the method of temple worship, and Bhagavad Vidhi is the system of 9 processes, which begin with the hearing and chanting. The Krishna conscious movement accepts both processes simultaneously and thus enables one to make steady progress on the path of realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This Pancharatrika procedure was first introduced by the great sage Narad, as referred to here by Vidya.
This verse is coming in the shloka Kriya Yoga Paricharya Vidhi. So Kriya Yoga Paricharya Vidhi, that refers to Panchtatrik Vidhi. So therefore Prabhupada is writing in the purport, there are two kinds of vidhis, Bhagavat Vidhi and Manne Mahabhagavatam Naradam Devadarshanam. What is his profile? Yena Propta Kriya Yoga Paricharya Vitir Hare. So he is a personality who started this Panchtantric Vidhi, and therefore he spoke this description of these prayers in Pacheta's section, Pacheta's arena. Swadharma Shile Purushair Bhagavan Yatme Purusha Ijyamano Bhaktimata Naradene Rita Kila. Yes, Sachin Prabhu.
While all the Prachetas were executing religious rituals and sacrificial ceremonies, and thus worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his satisfaction, the great sage Narada described the transcendental qualities of Dhruva Maharaja.
So the Lord, having been worshipped by the Prachetas who practiced the duties Swadharma Shile, was then praised by Narada. So basically Prachetas, it will come in next section. They, according to their Varnashram duties, he could worship the Lord. Swadharma Shila. So Prabhupada is going to stress on that in his purport. Yes, Prabhupada, please read the purport.
Narad Muni is always glorifying the pastimes of the Lord. In this verse, we see that not only does he glorify the Lord, but he also likes to glorify the devotees of the Lord. The great sage Narada's mission is to broadcast the devotional service of the Lord. For this purpose, he has compiled the Narad Pancharatra, a directory of devotional service, so that devotees can always take information about how to execute devotional service and thus engage 24 hours a day in performing sacrifices for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has created 4 orders of social life, namely Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. In the Narad Pancharatra, it is very clearly described how each of the social orders can please the Supreme Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 18.45, it is stated, Save Save Karmanya Adhirataha Samsiddhi Labhate Naraha. By executing one's prescribed duties, one can please the Supreme Lord. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.13, also it is stated, Swanustutiha Dharmasya Samasiddhir Hari Toshanam. The perfection of duty is to see that by discharging one's specific duties, one satisfies the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the Prachetas were performing sacrifices according to this direction, Narad Muni was satisfied to see these activities, and he also wanted to glorify Dhruva Maharaj in that sacrificial arena.
Yes. So basically, why Prabhupada is writing here this purport, big purport about Brahman, Kshatriya, Shudra, according to different Varna and Ashrama, there are different duties. And the Prachetas did it very nicely while keeping the Lord in the center for pleasing the Lord. And therefore, Narada had gone there to glorify the Lord, Supreme Lord. And after glorifying the Supreme Lord, he also glorified the ancestor of Prachetas, that is Dhruva Maharaj, in that because you are coming in the lineage of Dhruva Maharaj, and Dhruva Maharaj could achieve the Vaikuntha Loka. And that is where he is describing then that in front of Prachetas. Because you are coming in the same lineage, it's sure you're going to attract the Lord by your bhakti also. Yastadeva Rishina Tatra Varnita Bhagavata Kata Mayam Shushrusave Brahman Karshneya Chastum Arhasi Shushrusave. So in this verse, Shushrusave is very important. Prabhupada is going to highlight on it. Yes, Yogini Priyamataji, please read. I know you're traveling, but it's a small purpose.
Yes, yes. Okay. My dear Brahmana, how did Narad Muni glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and what pastimes were described? प्रभु जी
हाँ
हट गया है सब, एक मिनट.
हाँ अभी दिखेगा आपको अभी दिख
Okay,
रहा है
and what pastimes were described in that meeting? I am very eager to hear of them. Kindly explain fully about that glorification of the Lord.
Yeah, read the purport.
Oh, purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam is the record of Bhagavad Katha topics about the pastimes of the Lord. What Vidura was anxious to hear from Maitreya, we can also hear 5,000 years later, provided we are very eager.
Yeah, so this is what Prabhupada is writing a twist here. So we had his emails. Recently we had Bhadra Purnima, Bhadra campaign, and so many devotees are asked to distribute Bhagavatam. So it's open secret. Srimad Bhagavatam is being distributed in Kali Yuga to everyone, each and everyone. But Bhagavatam might be there. But if that eagerness is not there to hear, then what happens? Bhagavatam will be there, the pastime will be there, and it will be packed in the plastics. So what Vidura was anxious to hear from Maitreya, we can also hear 5,000 years later, provided we are very eager. So this is very important, this eagerness. Because what we were discussing Bhakti Vaibhav courses, we are not going to discuss anything. We are just discussing what Prabhupada spoke in his purpose. So basically this, each and every place, the eagerness is mentioned. Maitrivacha Dhruvasya Chotkala Putra Pitari Prashtiti Vanam Sarvavam Shriyam Naichad Adiraja Salampitu Sarvam. Yes, next. Suchitra Mat. Who is there? Sachi Sundari Madhav.
Yes. The great sage Maitreya replied, My dear Vidura, when Maharaj Dhruva departed for the forest, his son Utkala did not desire to accept the opulent throne of his father, which was meant for the ruler of all the lands of this planet.
So, Prabhupada doesn't give any purport for this. Chakrutpad Prabhupada writes, basically, Dhruva's son was Utkal, but he was a, what do you say, Mahabhagavat, which we see in Ishopnishad Mantra 6-7. So since the Prachetas were born in the Dhruva dynasty, the story of the Prachetas will appear in the narration of Dhruva's descendants. The description is for that purpose. So because they're coming, therefore Pracheta section is coming. And Utkala, his description will come again for next shlokas. Why did not accept the opulent throne Sarvabhauma of his father? Because he was not interested. He was completely devoted to the Lord. He was a Mahabhagavat. So he was Uttamadhikari. So therefore he could not discriminate to rule. Yes. सजन्मनो पशान्तात्मा निस्संग समदर्शनः तदर्शलोके विततम् आत्मानां लोकमात्मनि. Yes, Mataji, please continue.
Okay. From his very birth, Utkala was fully satisfied and unattached to the world. He was equipoised, for he could see everything resting in the supersoul and the supersoul present in everyone's heart. Purport. Shall I continue?
Yes.
The symptoms and characteristics of Utkala, the son of Maharaj Dhruva, are those of a Mahabhagavata. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 6.30, Yomam Pashyati Sarvatra Sarvam Cha Mai Pashyati. A highly advanced devotee sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead everywhere, and he also sees everything resting in the Supreme. It is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 9.4, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina. Lord Krishna is spread all over the universe in his impersonal feature. Everything is resting on him, but that does not mean that everything is he himself. A highly advanced Mahabhagavat devotee sees in this spirit, he sees the same super soul, Paramatma, existing within everyone's heart, regardless of discrimination based on the different material forms of the living entities. He sees everyone as part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Mahabhagavat, who experiences the Supreme Godhead's presence everywhere, is never missing from the sight of the Supreme Lord, nor is the Supreme Lord ever lost from his sight. This is possible only when one is advanced in love of Godhead.
Statement Prabhupada is writing here that Lord Krishna is spread all over in his impersonal feature. Basically, everything is resting on the Supreme Lord. He's a support. And the second statement that everything is resting on him. He's a support. But that does not mean that everything is he himself. That means that is Mayavadi concept, that everything is Krishna. Not everything is Krishna. Krishna's support for everything through the medium of Mahavishnu, Garbhadaksha Vishnu, Shurdaksha Vishnu, and that. And therefore, everything is Krishna. In the sense, everything is Krishna's, not everything is Krishna. Everything is Krishna is a Mayavadi concept. So here, Utkala is a Mahabhagavat mentioned in 6.30. Atmanam Brahma Nirvanam Pratyastamita Vigraham Avabodharashaikatmyam Anandam Anusantatam Avyavachinna Yogagni Dagdakarma Malashaya Swarupam Avarundano Natmano Anyam Tadekshataha. Yes, next. Who's there? Parmeshwari Mataji, you would like to read?
Yes, Prabhuji, yes. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. By expansion of his knowledge of the Supreme Brahman, he had already attained liberation from the bondage of the body. This liberation is known as nirvana. He was situated in transcendental bliss and he continued always in that blissful existence, which expanded more and more. This was possible for him by continual practice of bhakti yoga, which is compared to fire because it burns away all dirty material things. He was always situated in his constitutional position of self-realization, and he could not see anything else but the Supreme Lord and himself engaged in discharging devotional service. Purport.
Use the Mahabharata. What is his vision? Is mentioned in the shloka. So this is what a person who's in Mahabharata can experience. Yes, Mother, you read the purport.
Yes, Prabhu. These two verses explain the verse in the Bhagavad Gita 18.54. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim lavate param. One who is transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed he is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he achieves pure devotional service unto me. This is also explained by Lord Chaitanya in his Shikshashtaka in the beginning of the first verse. Cheto darpana marjanam bhava maha davagni nirvapanam shreya kairava chandrika vitaranam vidyavadhu jivanam. The Bhakti Yoga system is the topmost yoga system. And in this system, the chanting of the holy name of the Lord is the foremost performance of devotional service. By chanting the holy name, one can attain the perfection of nirvana or liberation from material existence and so increase one's blissful life of spiritual existence as described by Lord Chaitanya, Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam. When one is situated in that position, he no longer has any interest in material opulence or even a royal throne and sovereignty over the whole planet. This situation is called Viraktir Anyatra sat. It is the result of devotional service. The more one makes advancement in devotional service, the more one becomes detached from material opulences and material activities. This is the spiritual nature, full of bliss. This is also described in Bhagavad Gita, Param Drishta Nivartante. One ceases to take part in material enjoyment upon tasting superior blissful life in spiritual existence. By advancement in spiritual knowledge, which is considered to be like blazing fire, all material desires are burned to ashes. The perfection of mystic yoga is possible when one is continuously in connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead by discharging devotional service. A devotee is always thinking of the Supreme Person at every step of his life. Every conditioned soul is full of the reactions of his past life, but all dirty things are immediately burned to ashes if one simply executes his devotional service. This is described in the Narada Pancharatna, Sarvopavadi Vinirmuktam Tatparatve Na Nirvala.
Yeah, so this is very
Hare.
important for all of us as sadhakas. By advancement in spiritual knowledge, which is considered to be like a blazing fire. So many in all the places in Bhagavatam, bhakti, the process of bhakti is compared to like fire, agni. All material desires are burned to ashes, and the perfection of mystic yoga is possible. Here again, whether karma, whether jnana, or ashtanga, to become to get some result or to make it successful, there has to be some element of bhakti. So is when one is continuously in connection to the Supreme Person of Godhead by discharging devotional service. So when moment after moment, hour after hour, days after days, week after week, continuously we are in touch with the Supreme Lord without much being engaged in what is happening outside. Yeah, we should have worldly wisdom to earn money and take care of a family physically, but consciously, our consciousness should be, yeah, reading, hearing, chanting. We should not, when we are working outside in the outside world, yes, we have to discriminate what is right, what is wrong. But when we are in a devotee circle, when you are trying to practice bhakti, we have to be continuously in connection with the Supreme Person of God by discharging devotional service. So this is a secret of purification. Jadanda Badironmatta Mukha Kritir Atanmati Lakshita Patibalanam Prashantarchir Ivanalaha. Yes. Jai Prakash Pu.
Yes, Guruji. Utkala appeared to the less intelligent persons on the road to be foolish, blind, dumb, deaf, and mad. Although actually he was not so. He remained like fire covered with ashes without blazing flames.
Which are section we can remember where was in somewhere similar like Utkala in
Bharat
Bhagavatam?
Maharaj.
Yes, Jada Bharat. Bharat Maharaj's first life, second life was deer, third life was Jada Bharat. Yes, to read the purport.
In order to avoid contradictions, moderations, and unfavorable situations created by materialistic persons, a great saintly person like Jadabharata or Utkala remains silent. The less intelligent consider such saintly persons to be mad, deaf, or dumb. Factually, an advanced devotee avoids speaking with persons who are not in devotional life. But to those who are in devotional life, he speaks in friendship, and he speaks to the innocent for their enlightenment. For all practical purposes, the whole world is full of non devotees. And so, one kind of very advanced devotee is called Bhajananandi. Those who are Goshtyanandi, however, preach to increase the number of devotees. But even such preachers also avoid opposing elements who are unfavorable, disposed towards a spiritual life.
Yes. So we are doing a Bhakti Shastri in Nectar of Instruction or in Ishopanishad. These three kind of adhikaris come: Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, Uttam Adhikari, especially in Ishopanishad. mantra 6 and 7. There is description comes. So Kanishta Vikari is only bothered about the temple and the Lord. He comes, takes time. He doesn't value devotees. Madhyamadikari, he deals with four kind of people. Innocent, he is compassionate. Devotees, he friendship. Supreme Lord, loving service. And envious, is upeksha. So even Goshtanandi doesn't preach to the envious people. What about his people Bhajananandi? Bhajananandi is like, he's completely absorbed in his japa. Basically, Bhajananandi is, they're advanced devotees. But only when they're basically in a Uttamadikari level. But when Uttamadikari Bhajananandi means, he sees everybody as a devotee, therefore what is the need to preach? But when the Uttamadikari comes to Madhyamadikari, then he can discriminate. So there is a need for preaching. Matvatam jadamunmattam kulavritta samantrita samantrina vatsaram bhupatim chakrur yaviyamsham brahme sutam. Yes.
For this reason, the ministers and all the elderly members of the family thought Utkala to be without intelligence, and in fact mad. Thus, his younger brother, named Vatsara,
Vatsara.
the son of Bharami, was elevated to the royal throne and he became king of the world. Perfect. It appears that although there was monarchy, it was not at all an autocracy. There were senior family members and ministers who could make changes and elect the proper person to the throne, although the throne could be occupied only by the royal family. In modern days also, wherever there is a monarchy, sometimes the ministers and elderly members of the family select one member from the royal family to occupy the throne in preference to another.
Monarchy means somebody who's coming in the same lineage can become a king. Autocracy means there is only one person can choose, like Hitler or something like that. This means this. But here, if you are able to see, Utkal could not become, there are ministers and they could choose anyone. Again, if he is not, Utkal is not there, next person can be chosen, son of Brahmi. Vatsar was chosen. Next. Svarvitir Vatsas Prashishta Bharyasuta Sadatmajam Pushparnam Tigmaketum Cha Isham Urjam Vashum Jayam. Yes, next Prabhu. Rishi Kumar Prabhu, please read.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you. King Vatsara had a very dear wife whose name was Svarviti, and she gave birth to 6 sons named Pushparna, Tigmaketu, Isha, Urja, Vasu, and Jaya. Purport: Vatsara's wife is mentioned here as Ishta, which means worshipable. In other words, it appears that Vatsara's wife had all good qualities. For example, she was always very faithful and obedient and affectionate to her husband. She had all good qualities for managing household affairs. In both the husband and wife are endowed with good qualities and live peacefully, then 9 children take birth, and thus the whole family is happy and prosperous.
Basically, both sides should possess the good qualities and nice children take birth, and thus whole family is happy and prosperous. Pushparnasya prabha bharya tosha cha dve babuvatu pratar madhyan dinam shayam itihi asan prabhasuta. Yes, continue, Prabhu.
Pushparna had 2 wives named Prabha and Dosha. Prabha had 3 sons named Pratar, Madhyanadinam, and Sayam.
Sayam. Pradosho nishito vishtu iti dosha sutastrayo Jishtu sutam pushkarinyam sarvateja sam adadate.
Dosha had 3 sons, Pradosha, Nishita, and Vyushta. Vyushta's wife was named Pushkarini, and she gave birth to a very powerful son named Sarvateja.
So now, after a section of Maitreya inquiring, Vidura inquiring from Maitreya regarding who are Prachetas, what was spoken there, And then, after explaining, when Vidura inquired from Maitreya, okay, I want to know about what was it, arena of Prachetas. So to come to the level of Prachetas, now he has to speak from Dhruva, Utkala. Utkala's son was Vatsara, and then the descendants, and come till Vena, Anga Maharaj. So that description is going on now. Sa chakshu sutam akyutyam patnyam manum avapaha manor ashuta mahishi virajan advala sutan purum kutsam tritam dyumnam satyavantam vratam agnistomam atiratram pradyumnam shivim ulmukam. Yes, continue.
Sarveta's wife Akuti gave birth to a son named Chakshusha, who became the sixth Manu at the end of the Manu's millennium. Nadvala, the wife of Chakshusha Manu, gave birth to following faultless sons: Puru, Pushta, Trita, Dhumna, Satyavan, Rita, Vrata, Agnistoma, Atiratra, Pradnyumna, Sibi, and Ulmuka.
Yes. So Chakravartipad writes here, Sarvateja called Chakshusha begot a son named Chakshushmanu. So Sarvateja, another name of Chakshu. So from him came Chakshusha. So basically, Brahma is called as Virinchi, and Brahma's children, Kumar is called Vairinchi. So whenever you see Vasudeva, and Vasudev's son is Vasudev. So Chakshu, Sarvateja name is Chakshu, and his son's name was Chakshusha, Chakusha. So here he quotes a shloka. Sastascha Chakshusha Putras Chakshusho Nama Vai Manu Pura Puras Sadyumna Pramukas Chakshushatmajaha, the son of Chakshu, known as Chakshusha, was the sixth Manu. He had many sons, headed by Puru, Purusha, Sudyumna. It comes in the 8th kind of chapter, 8 verse. Ulmuko Janayat Putran Pushkarinyam Sad Uttamam Angam Sumanas Khatim Kratum Angirasham Gayam.
Of the 12 sons, Ulmukha begot 6 sons in his wife Pushkarini. They were all good sons, and their names were Anga, Sumana, Khyati, Kratu, Angira, and Gaya.
Yes, so Anga comes here. They were all very good sons, and their names were Anga. Sunitangasya ya patni shushuve venamulvanam yad daushiliyat sarajarshi nirvinno nirgata purat. Now Sunita, mother name is coming. Yes, bro.
The wife of Anga, Sunitha, gave birth to a son named Vena, who was very crooked. The saintly king Anga was very disappointed with Vena's bad character, and he left home and kingdom and went out to the forest.
The saintly king Anga was very disappointed with the Vena's bad character. He was so frustrated he left itself. He took Vanaprastha out of fear of his son. Yam Angashepu Kupita Vagvajra Munayokila Gatashrostasya Bhuyaste Mamantur Dakshinam Karam Arajake Tada Loke Dashyabvi Pidita Prajaha Jato Narayanam Shena Prutur Adhya Shitishvaraha. That description is coming how Anga created a non-nuisance and all the Praja became disturbed, and then because of the ministers, they did the hunkar and they killed Vena, and from his body, Prutu Adhya Shitish Ishvaraha Narayanam Shena. So Prutu Maharaj is a Narayan Amshak, was created from Vena's body. Yes. Now who can read? Who is also remaining? Okay. Again, we'll start from Shubhalakshmi Mataji. Please read.
My dear Vidura, when great sages curse, their words are as invincible as a thunderbolt. Thus, when they cursed King Vena out of anger, he died. After his death, since there was no king, all the roads and fields flourished. The kingdom became unregulated, and all the citizens suffered greatly. On seeing this, the great sages took the right hand of Veda as a churning rod, and as a result of that churning, Lord Vishnu, in his partial representation, made his advent as Sri Prithu, the original emperor of the world.
Because he did not obey the ministers and rishis, they become very frustrated. And they took his right hand, churned like a churning rod. Lord Vishnu, in his partial presentation, as Prithu Maharaj, the emperor of the world, advented. No, Chakravarti mentions it. The cause of churning Vena's hand was the lack of a king. Because they wanted to continue the legacy. They used his hand, which is representative of a king. Indra, in the universal body, the Indra represents the hand of a universal form. Similarly, in king, the king's hand is very important. From the churning, Prithu appeared, and he is called the first king because he established towns and cities. Yes, Mother, you can do the purport. Monarchy.
Monarchy is better than democracy because if the monarchy is very strong, the regulative principles within the kingdom are upheld very nicely. Even 100 years ago, in the state of Kashmir in India, the king was so strong that if a thief were arrested in his kingdom and brought before him, the king would immediately chop off the hands of the thief. As a result of this severe punishment, there were practically no theft cases within the kingdom. Even if someone left something on the street, no one would touch it. The rule was that the king should be taken away only by the proprietor and that no one else would touch them. The king's rule. In the so-called democracy, wherever there is a theft case, the police come and take note of the case. But generally the thief is never caught, nor is any punishment offered to him. As a result of incapable government, and the present moment thieves, rogues, cheaters are very prominent all over the world.
Basically, what happens in monarchy is one person is there, he is qualified like Yudhishthir Maharaj, Dhruv Maharaj, and they have with guidance from their rishis and ministers, they can immediately take like Parikshit Maharaj, he could see Kali, he could immediately control it. But in case of democracy, people, everybody is the kind of people, the kind of leader. If the people are corrupt, the leader will be corrupt. And how much best leader will be? The town legacy who are there, who are electing, will be corrupt. And because of that, nothing is taken in control. Vidurivacha तस्य शीलानिधे साधोर्ब्रह्मणस्य महात्मना राज्ञा कथम् अबुद्धुस्त प्रजायद्विमान ययो. Yes, Parmeshwari Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Vidura inquired from the sage Maitreya, my dear Brahmana, King Anga was very gentle. He had high character and was saintly personality and lover of the Brahmanical culture. How it is that such a great soul got a bad son like Vena, because of whom he became indifferent to his kingdom and left it.
So now
Purport.
we can see how much Vidura is so inquisitive. He's hearing with his heart and mind. Immediately saying, yeah, this is a legacy of Dhruv Maharaj. How come in Dhruv Maharaj's lineage somebody can, like Vena can be born? Immediately a question is coming without any stoppage. He had a high character and was a saintly personality and lover of Brahmanical culture, Ranga Maharaj. How is that such a great soul got a bad son like Vena, because of whom he became indifferent to his kingdom and left it, because of which he had to flee away, taking Vanaprastha. He became disgraced and left home. Yes, purport. Read Mataji purport.
In family life, a man is supposed to live happily with father, mother, wife, and children. But sometimes, under certain conditions, a father, mother, child, or wife become an enemy. It is said that by Chanakya Pandita that a father is an enemy when he is too much in debt. A mother is an enemy if she marries for a second time. A wife is an enemy when she is very beautiful, and a son is an enemy when he is foolish rascal. In this way, when a family members become an enemy, it is very difficult to live in family life. or remain a householder. Generally, such situations occur in the material world. Therefore, according to Vedic culture, one has to take leave of his family members just after his 50th year so that the balance of his life may be completely devoted in search of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah,
Hare
amazing
Krishna.
purport. So Prabhupada wants to tell why when Anga Maharaj left. So Prabhupada not come directly to the point because son was foolish. He wants to tell why a family man leaves immediately from family life. Either father, if he's having debt, then he becomes frustrated, he becomes disgraced. Mother, she marries second time. Wife, she's very beautiful. And son is a fool and rascal. In this case of Anga Maharaj, Vain is a rascal or a fool who is not accepting Vedic culture. And therefore, he had to leave. Mhm. Kim vam Kim vamo vena uddishya brahmadandam ayuyujam dandavrata dhare rajni munayo dharma kovida. Yes, Yogini Priya
Vidura also inquired, how is that the great sage who were completely conversant with religious principles desired to curse King Vena, who himself carried the rod of punishment and thus awarded him the greatest punishment,
Mm.
Brahmasapa.
Yeah,
Uh,
basically, the great sages who were completely convinced decide to curse King Vena because who himself carried the rod of punishment, thus awarded him the great punishment, Brahmashapa. King is having all the control, but how come the Brahmarshis they could punish him? Yes. So Chakravarti mentions Amaha means
purport
offense. The king has the right to punish, and sages have no right to punish the king. But how is that? Sages punish the king because it was emergency. Yes, read the purport, Mataji.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhakti Vaibhav. It is understood that the king is able to give punishment to everyone, but in this case it appears that the great sages punished him. The king must have done something very serious, otherwise, how could the great sages, who were supposed to be the greatest and most tolerant, still punish him in spite of their elevated religious consciousness? It appears also that the king was not independent of the Brahminical culture. Above the king was the control of the Brahmanas, and if needed, the Brahmanas would dethrone the king or kill him not with any weapon but with the mantra of Brahmasapa. The Brahmanas were so powerful that simply by their cursing, one would immediately die.
It's not that Brahmanas used to do it like time and again, because Brahmanas are in a different varna. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. So they would only use this Brahma Shapa only during emergency, because then they lose their Tapobala. Only when they could evaluate it is going to be not so injurious to the public and it's not going and the release principle are in problem. That time only they lose it, not every time. We are self-controlled sages. नवद्येया प्रजापालः प्रजाभिरगवानपि यद् असौ लोकपालानां बिभर्ति ओजस्वत्तेजसा. Yes, Sachin Pro.
It is the duty of all citizens in a state never to insult the king, even though he sometimes appears to have done something very sinful. Because of his prowess, the king is always more influential than all other ruling chiefs.
Yeah, basically how Brahmanas cursed him and citizens are supposed to respect the king. He's called as Naradeva. How is that? He was disrespected. Hmm? The king, even if Prabhupada Chakravarti writes, even if sinful, should not be disregarded by citizens because he maintains the effectiveness of devatas by his power. Let's read the purport proof.
According to Vedic civilization, the king is supposed to be the representative of the supreme personality of Godhead. He is called Nar Narayana, indicating that Narayana, the supreme personality of Godhead, appears in human society as the king. It is etiquette that neither a Brahmana nor a Kshatriya king is ever insulted by the citizens. Even though a king appears to be sinful, the citizens should not insult him. But in the case of Vena, it appears that he was cursed by the Nar Devatas. Therefore, it was concluded that his sinful activities were very grievous.
Yes, why it is mentioned here that even if the king is sinful, he should not be insulted, because there are thieves, rogues, gangsters who wants to misuse the property of the kingdom. So the citizens, when the king loses respect in front of citizens, then these anti-elements they start coming, and that is the reason, to keep them in control. The king should be respected so that people become fearful. And even Nara, in case of Vena, also will read that also is sinful, but all the thieves were very careful because he used to kill them like anything. And therefore, everything was shant. But only thing was, just because the anti-element are not in the society doesn't mean that it is progressing. Along with that, the worship also should go. But that worship, he started telling that I'm only Devata, worship me. What is the need of Vishnu? He started stopping all sacrifice. When he started stopping all sacrifices to Vishnu, that time the sages, the rishis, they thought it's an emergency. Hmm? Etad akya hi me Brahman. Yes, Rishi Bro.
So I heard that in the line of Pandavas, which comes from Bharat Maharaj, there was at one time there was not a proper candidate in their dynasty, so they took someone from the community, but still it is known as Bharat Vansha. Is it true, Prabhu?
So you're asking that in the lineage of Dhruv Maharaja?
No, no. Like we know, this our Pandavas, Dhritarashtra
Mm-hmm.
Pandavas. So their ancestors were Bharat Maharaj, and even before that there was something lineage going on from long time. So at one moment of time, some ancestors before, it's not known, but there was no one in that kingdom who were very capable to become king. The own sons were not there. So they took someone from the community, nearby community, and then he became the king. And then later on the lineage continued. Is it true, Prabhu? I heard like that.
It's possible because some birth is not a criteria. So sometimes in emergency condition, there's something like when somebody is qualified, they take him and they keep him. Yeah, basically because it's coming in Mahabharat, so for that might in Mahabharat that reference can be there. But again, that Mahabharat has to be read for that. But yeah, it's possible when some qualified person is not there in the dynasty, then a qualified person is seen, seeing his varna, seeing his qualities and his skills, basically his character is reinstated so that protection can be given. It might be possible.
Thank you, Prabhu.
एतदख्यामि मे ब्रह्मन् सुनीतात्मजा चेष्टितं श्रद्धानाय भक्ताय त्वं परावरावितं वित्तमः. Yes. Jay Prakash Prabhu. Jagannath Govind Prabhu.
Right, sir. Vidura requested Maitreya, my dear Brahmana, you are well conversant with all subjects, both past and future. Therefore, I wish to hear from you all the activities of King Vena. I am your faithful devotee. So please explain this.
So these are the things Vidura is having. A king should not be respected. Why the sages disrespect killed him? Why the citizens are disrespecting him? So these questions he has put in front of them. So he needs answer for all these things. Purport. Please read the purport through.
Purport. Vidura accepted Maitreya as a spiritual master. A disciple always inquires from the spiritual master, and the spiritual master answers the question provided the disciple is very gentle and devoted. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said that by the mercy of the spiritual master, one is blessed with the mercy of the Supreme Lord. The spiritual master is not inclined to disclose all the secrets of transcendental science unless the disciple is very submissive and devoted. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the process of receiving knowledge from the spiritual master entails submission, enquiry, and service.
Yes. This is a secret of advancement. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashrena siva. Maitrivacha ango asvamedam rajarshir ajahara mahakrutum najam najagmurdevatastasmin ahuta brahmavadivi. Yes, Sashi Sundari Mataji.
Yes. Sri Maitreya replied, My dear Vidura, once the great king Anga arranged to perform the great sacrifice known as Ashwamedha. All the expert Brahmanas present knew how to invite the demigods, but in spite of their efforts, no demigods participated or appeared in that sacrifice.
So this is the climax now. Yes, please read the purport, Mataji.
Purport. A Vedic sacrifice is not an ordinary performance. The demigods used to participate in such sacrifices, and the animals sacrificed in such performances were reincarnated with new life. In this age of Kali, there are no powerful Brahmanas who can invite the demigods or give renewed life to animals. Formerly, the Brahmanas, well conversant in Vedic mantras, could show the potency of the mantras, but in this age, because there are no such Brahmanas, all such sacrifices are forbidden. The sacrifice in which horses were offered was called Ashwamedha. Sometimes cows were sacrificed, Gava
Gavalamba.
Gavalamba, Gavalamba, not for eating purposes, but to give them new life in order to show the potency of the mantra. In this age, therefore, the only practical yajna is Sankirtan yajna or chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra 24 hours a day.
Yeah, here it's mentioned how that sacrifice to happen. Immediately they will test it. It used to be like testing. They'll get a rejuvenated body. So that is not possible in Kali Yuga, therefore there's only chanting of Hare Krishna mantra. Tam uchur vishmitastatra yajamaanam atartvija avimshi hyuyamanani nate grananti devata. Continue, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. The priests engaged in the sacrifice then informed King Anga, O king, we are properly offering the clarified butter in the sacrifice, but despite all our efforts, the demigods do not accept it.
Yes. So basically Angas, all the Hota and Ritviju and all the people, four kinds of priests are there. They're all trying their best. But imagine when you want to do something, some sacrifice, and something doesn't come out good, then how much anxiety will be there. So same anxiety King Vena will go through, King Anga will go. Rajan Havimshi Adustani Shraddaya Saditani Te Chandamsi Ayatayamani Yojitani Tritavrate. Somebody else can read next. Who else is remaining? Okay. Rishi Kumar, please read.
Yes, Prabhu. O king, we know that the paraphernalia to perform the sacrifice is well collected by you with great faith and care and is not polluted. Our chanting of Vedic Hamsa is also not deficient in any way. For all the Brahmanas and priests present here are expert and are executing the performances properly.
So basically, he is just empathizing with the king. There's no problem from your side. At the same time, there's no problem from our side. What is the problem is now. Proper light in the purport. Yes, please read the purport.
Purport. It is the practice of Brahmanas conversant with the signs to pronounce a Vedic mantra in the right accent. The combination of the mantra and Sanskrit word must be chanted with loud pronunciation, otherwise it will not be successful. In this age, the Brahmanas are neither well versed in the Sanskrit language nor very pure in practical life. But by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one can attain the highest beneficial benefit of sacrificial performances. Even if the Hare Krishna mantra is not chanted properly, it still has so much potency that a chanter gains the effect.
So that is the difference between the Vedic yajna and chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. It can give benefit. Na vidameha devanam helanam vayam anvapi yana grananti bhagan swan ye deva karma sakshina. Continue.
Dear king, we do not find any reason that a demigod should feel insulted or neglected in any way. But still, the demigods who are witnesses for the sacrifice do not accept their share. We do not know why this is so.
Yes.
Purport. It is indicated here in that if there is a negligence on the part of the priest, the demigods do not accept their shares in sacrifices. Similarly, in devotional service, there are offenses known as seva apradha. Those who are engaged in worshipping the deity Radha and Krishna in the temple should avoid such offenses in service. The offenses in service are described in the Nectar of Devotion. If we simply make a show of offering services to the deity but do not take care for the seva aprad, certainly the Radha Krishna deity will not accept offering from such non-devotees. Devotees engaged in temple worship should not therefore manufacture their own methods, but should strictly follow the regulative principles of cleanliness, and then offerings will be accepted.
Yes, so Prabhupada is connecting it to deity worship. Maitri vacha ango dvija vacha shrutva yajamana sudurmanaha tatprashtum vyasrajad vacham sadasyam stad anutnya.
Translation. Maitreya explained that King Anga, after hearing the statements of the priest, was greatly aggrieved. At the time, he took permission from the priest to break into silence and inquired from all of them who were present in the sacrificial arena.
Okay. So Prabhupada Chakrutpad writes here, he was supposed to be silent during the sacrifice but took permission to speak. Basically, when a Yajman is there, he cannot speak during the sacrifice. Therefore, he took their permission to speak. Suryakant Krishna Prabhu, you're traveling or you can read or? Nagachanti ahudeva nagrananti grahaniha sudasaspatayo bruta kim avadyam maya kritam. Subhalakshmi Mataji, please continue.
King Anga addressed the priestly order. My dear priests, kindly tell me what offense I have committed. Although invited, the demigods are neither taking part in the sacrifice nor accepting their share.
Grahan means vessels of Soma. They're not accepting it. Sudasaspataya uchu naradevaha bhavato nagam tava manakshitam asti ekam praktanam agam yad ihedraktam aprajaha.
The head priest, O king, in this life we do not find any sinful activity, even within your mind. So you are not in the least offensive. But we can see that in your previous life you performed sinful activities due to which, in spite of your having all qualifications, you have no son.
So it's very important. Many times devotees have this question, outside people or even devotees. Why do bad things happen to good people? So from this life we can be very sinless, but again, from previous lives, what we have done only Lord as Super Soul knows. It is a witness. And that is the reason they are telling, because of this you can't have a son in this life. Basically, he's performing that sacrifice for having a son. And the demigods are not coming. And therefore, the priests, they tell that some previous life, yes, read the purport, Mataji.
The purpose of marriage is to beget a son, because a son is necessary to deliver his father and forefathers from any hellish conditional life in which they may live. Chanakya Pandit therefore says, Putra Hinam Graham Sandhya. Without a son, married life is simply abominable. King Anga was very pious in his life, but because of his previous sinful activities, he could not get a son. It is concluded, therefore, that if a person does not get a son, it is due to his past sinful life.
Okay. Tata sadhya bhadram te atmanam suprajam rupa ishtaste putra kamasya putram dashyati yajnabuk. Continue, Mataji.
O king, we wish all good fortune for you. You have no son, but if you pray at once to the Supreme Lord and ask for a son, and if you execute the sacrifice for that purpose, the enjoyer of the sacrifice, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will fulfill your desire.
Yeah, therefore they are encouraging him. Rightly, you can approach Supreme Lord and ask, because he knows what's best for you. Tata sva bhagadeyani grahishyanti divokasha yadyatnya purusha shakshad akpatyaya harirvrata. Yes, Parmeshwari Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu. When Hari, the supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices, is invited to fulfill your desires for a son, all the demigods will come with him and take their shares in the sacrifice. Purport.
Mhm.
Whenever a sacrifice is performed, it is meant for satisfying the Lord Vishnu, the enjoyer of the all fruits of all sacrifices. And when Lord Vishnu agrees to come to a sacrificial arena, all the demigods naturally follow their master, and their shares are offered in such sacrifices. The conclusion is that the sacrifices performed are meant for Lord Vishnu, not for the demigods.
Yes, tamstan kama harir tadyat yan 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 kamayate jana aradito yatai vaisha tata pumsam phalodaya. Yes, Mother, continue.
Yes, the performance of the sacrifices under karma kanda activity achieves the fulfillment of the desires for which he worshipped the Lord.
In
Purport.
Bhagavad
In
Gita.
the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that he awards benediction to the worshipper according to his desire. The Supreme Personality of Godhead gives all living entities conditions within the material world full freedom to act in their own way. But to his devotee, he says that instead of working in that way, it is better to surrender unto me, for he will take charge of devotee.
Your
But a
sound is not
devotee
coming.
being under the guidance
Yes, yes,
huh?
continue. Your sound is clear. In between, sound was not coming. Yes, you can read.
No, yesterday the call came is that's why only.
Yeah, yeah. The fruitive
Being
act.
under the guidance of Supreme Lord simply advances in the devotional service to achieve the ultimate goal of life, to go back home, back to Godhead. The significant word in this verse is common, which means sense gratifactory desires. A devotee is devoid of all kaman. He is anyabhilishita shunyam. A devotee is always devoid of all desires for sense gratification. His only aim is to satisfy or gratify the senses of Lord. That is the difference between a karmi and a devotee. Hare Krishna.
Hmm. Basically, devotee wants to satisfy the Supreme Lord. We can see here also in Anga Maharaj's case, he wants to have a son. And also we saw in Chitraketu Maharaj's case, he wanted to have a son. But they were not destined. So what happened was in both the cases, in this case of Anga Maharaj, Vena came, who created, because Anga Maharaj is not destined to have a good son, he created Utpata, because of which Anga Maharaj left everything and took shelter of Lord. In case of Chitraketuman also, he was not destined to have a son. Again, he was in crisis and he also renounced and became a devotee of Sankarshan. And in case of Anga Maharaj, Vena, from Vena's body, the sages churned and Prutu came. But that particular person, he could not relish that feature of having a son. But for others, it was a benefit. Prutu Maharaj ki. Iti vyavasita vipras तस्य रज्ञा प्रजातये पुरुदाशं निरावापं शिपी विस्ताय विष्णवे. Sachin Pro.
Thus, for the sake of a son for King Anga, they decided to offer oblations to Lord Vishnu, who is situated in the hearts of all living entities.
Hmm. Read purport.
According to sacrificial rituals, animals are sometimes sacrificed in the yajna arena. Such animals are sacrificed not to kill them but to give them new life. Such actions was an experiment to observe whether the Vedic mantras were being properly pronounced. Sometimes small animals are killed in a medical laboratory to investigate therapeutic effects in a medical clinic. The animals are not revived, but in the yajna arena, when animals were sacrificed, they were again given life by the potency of Vedic mantras. The word Iti Visasya appears in this verse. Iti means the flames of the sacrifice. In the sacrificial fire is the oblations are offered. Lord Vishnu, then Lord Vishnu is situated there in the form of the flame. Therefore, Lord Vishnu is known as Sipi Vista.
So Lord Vishnu is present in the flames of the fire, therefore Lord Vishnu is called as Sipi Vistaha, and flames are called as Sipi. Okay. Tasmat Purusha Utasto Hemamali Amalambaraha Hiranmayena Patrena Siddham Adaya Payashama. This word comes even in Ishopanishad Mantra 15. Continue, Prabhu.
As soon as the oblation was offered in the fire, a person appeared from the fire altar wearing a golden garland and a white dress. He was carrying a golden pot filled with rice boiled in milk.
Yes. Savipranumato Raja Grihitvanjalinaudanam Avagraya Muda Yukta Pradatpatnya Udarati.
The king was very liberal, and after taking permission from the priest, he took the preparation in his joined palms, and after smelling it, he offered a portion to his wife.
So Prabhupada basically writes here the word Udaradi in the significant incarnation. The wife of the king, Sunita, was not fit to accept this benediction. Yet the king was so liberal that without hesitation he offered to his wife the boiled rice and milk prasad received from Yajna Purusha. Of course, everything designed by the Supreme Person of Godhead, as will be explained in the later verses. This incident was not very favorable for the king, since the king was very liberal. The Supreme Person of God, in order to increase his detachment from his material world, willed that a cruel son be born of the queen, so that the king would have to leave home. As stated above, Lord Vishnu fulfills the desire of a karmis as the desire, but the Lord fulfills the desire of a devotee in a different way, so that the devotee may gradually come to him. This is confirmed Bhagavad Gita. Dadami buddhyogam tam enamaopyantate. The Lord gives the devotee the opportunity to make progress further and further so that they may come back to order. Basically, Sunita was his father's from father's lineage. Sunita's father was having some cruel nature, and therefore the mother also was having it. Basically, father's qualities comes in a daughter, and daughter's qualities comes in a son. And therefore, because her father was having that same cruel tendencies that came in Sunita, and Sunita's son is going to be Vain, and that cruel tendencies are going to go in Vayana. And therefore, if a karmi or a person who goes and does karma kanda, Lord fulfills the desire because he wanted to give that desire. But for a devotee, Lord purifies. Therefore, in case of Anga Maharaj, Lord is going to purify by because he was liberal in giving that rice to his wife. So he will get a son, but that son will purify Anga Maharaj, by which he can come close to Lord Vishnu and take renunciation and can take Vanaprastha and go back and back to Godhead. Sa tat pum svanam rajni prashya vai pratyur adadve garbam kala upavrate kumaram sushave praja. Yes, next, Jagannath going through. Can you read?
Yes, bro. Although the queen had no son after eating that food, which had the power to produce a male child, she became pregnant by her husband, and in due course of time, she gave birth to a son.
So Prabhupada writes here, among 10 kinds of purificatory process, one is Pumsvanam, in which the wife is offered some prasad, remnants of foods to offer to Lord Vishnu, so that after sexual intercourse with her husband, she may conceive a child. So same thing happened here with Sunita and Anga Maharaj. Sabala eva purusho mahattamaham anuvrita adharma shobhavam mrityum tena bhava dadarmikaha. Yes, bro.
That boy was born partially in the dynasty of irreligion. His grandfather was death personified, and the boy grew up as his follower. He became a greatly irreligious person.
So basically, Chakravarti Pada writes here more clearly. The male child took after his maternal grandfather, Death, who appeared as a portion of Adharma. He seems to be another son of death described in 485. Because of this, he was irreligious. He writes here, Chakravartipad, because faults on the mother's side, he was irreligious. But because of arising from sacrifice to Vishnu caused by the father's material detachment, he became beneficial to the father since he gave rise to Prutu and thereby increased the fame of the family. So basically, from mother's side, it was irreligious, therefore, he was very cruel. But father was because son is born based on mother and father. So both combinations. But because father was detached, he was Lord Vishnu's devotee. Therefore, Prutu came from his body to continue the lineage. Yes, please read the purport of Prabhupada. It's a big purport.
The child's mother, Sunita, was the daughter of death personified. Generally, the daughter receives the qualification of her father, and the son acquires those of the mother. So, according to the axiomatic truth that things equal to the same thing are equal to one another, the child born of King Anga became the follower of his maternal grandfather. According to Smriti Shastra, a child generally follows the principles of his maternal uncle's house. Narana Matu Mutula Karma means that the child generally follows the qualities of his maternal family. If the maternal family is very positive, the child, even though born becomes of the maternal family. According to the Vedic civilization, therefore, before the marriage takes place, an account is taken of the both the boys and girls' family. If, according to the astrological calculation, the combination is perfect, then marriage takes place. Sometimes, however, there is a mistake and the family life becomes frustrating. It appears that King Anga did not get a very good wife in Suniti because she was the daughter of death personified. Sometimes the Lord arranges an unfortunate wife for his devotee so that gradually, due to family circumstances, the devotee becomes attached from his wife and home and make progress in devotional life. It appears that by the arrangement of Supreme Personality of Godhead, King Anga, though a pious devotee, got an unfortunate wife like
Sunita.
And later on a bad child like a Vena, but the result was that he got complete freedom from the entanglement of family life and left home to go back to Godhead.
Yeah, and some previous verses, as priest mentioned, he was very pious and devoted in this life, but because in past life he had done some sinful activities, so because of that he got a wife and he's getting a child. But because of this present life, he took it in a right spirit and he took to 1%. It depended on Lord Vishnu and left. Then sages accordingly Lord managed to bring Prutu in his life. Sarshanam udyamya मृगयोर्वनगोचर हन्ति असाधुर्मृगन्धीनं वेनो असौ इति औरजजनः. Yes, please continue.
After fixing his bow and arrow, the cruel boy used to go to the forest and unnecessarily kill innocent deer. And as soon as he came, all the people would cry, "Here comes cruel Vena! Here comes cruel Vena!"
So some of the atrocities of Vena are mentioned in the further verses. So that we'll read now. Yes. So Prabhupada mentioned Kshatriyas are supposed to hunt for the purpose of learning the killing art so that they can practice in warfare. Kshatriyas are not meant to kill animals just haphazardly, but for this reason Kshatriyas were allowed to hunt in the forest. But because Anga, Vena, was born of a bad mother, who was a King Anga's son, was very cruel and used to go to forest and unnecessarily kill the animals. All the neighboring inhabitants would be frightened by his presence and they would call. Basically, they were so fearful, all of them used to run. Here comes Vena, here comes Vena. So from the beginning of life, he was very fearful to the citizens. Akride kridato balan vayasyan atidaruna prashayanyara nukroshaha pashumaram amaryata. Sachindra Mataji, can you read?
Yes, Prabhuji. The boy was so cruel that while playing with young boys of his age, he would kill them very mercilessly as if they were animals meant for slaughter.
Pashumaram means killing like animals. Tam vichiksha kalam putram sasane vividayar yada nashashitum kalpo prasham ashit sudurmana.
Shall I continue?
Yes.
After seeing the cruel and merciless behavior of his son Vena, King Anga punished him in different ways to reform him, but was unable to bring him to the path of gentleness. He thus became greatly aggrieved.
Yeah, this is what the fathers do when they see their son. And they, despite their, they can do their duty, but they can't rectify it now. Hmm. प्रायेणाभि प्रायेणाभ्यर्चितो देवो ये प्राजागृहमेदिना कद अपत्यावृतं दुःखं येनाविन्दति दुर्भारम्. Continue, Mataji.
The king thought to himself, persons who have no son are certainly fortunate. They must have worshipped the Lord in their previous lives so that they would not have to suffer the unbearable unhappiness caused by a bad son.
Those who don't have a son are very fortunate. They must have worshipped Lord in the previous so that they would not have to suffer the unbearable happiness caused by a bad son. Now you can understand. Na? He knows the reason. The priest told that because of some sinful activity in previous life, you're not destined to have a son, but still he requested Lord Vishnu. So Lord Vishnu gave him, but it was for the better of others, but not for material betterment of him. Lord was worshipped by those with no sons, since they do not have to suffer the intolerable burden completely manifested in a bad son. यथा पाप्यसी कीर्तिर अधर्मश्च महान् नृणं यतो विरोध सर्वेषां यथा आदिर अनंतक. Continue, Mataji.
Yes. A sinful son causes a person's reputation to vanish. His irreligious activities at home cause irreligion and quarrel among everyone, and this creates only endless anxiety.
Yes, this is what we can see in the Kali Yuga also. Reputation vanishes, quarrel, anxiety, endless anxiety. It is said that a married couple must have a son, otherwise their family is void. But a son born without good qualities is as good as a blind eye. Blind eye has no use for seeing, but it is simply unbearably painful. The king therefore thought himself very unfortunate to have such a bad son. Kashtam prajapadesham vai mohabandam atmanah pandito bahumanyeta yadarta veshadagraha.
Who, if he is who, if he is considerate and intelligent, would desire such a worthless son? Such a son is nothing but a bond of illusion for the living entity, and he makes one's home miserable.
Prabhupada. I think Prabhupada is not here. But Chakravarti is right. Such a person is a son in name only, actually being an ocean of suffering. The king decided that out of public shame, he would leave the house full of mental pain, worship the Lord day and night in an unknown place while taking only roots and fruits. In that way, would make the rest of his life worthwhile. So that is how he's going to planning to now run away. Basically, run away matlab from the expectation of kingly duties. कद अपत्यम वरम मन्ये सद अपत्याचुचुम पदात् निर्वेदिता ग्रहान् मृत्यो यत्क्लेशा निभाग्रहा.
Then the king thought a bad son is better than a good son because a good son creates an attachment for home, whereas a bad son does not. A bad son creates a hellish home from which an intelligent man naturally becomes very easily detached.
Yeah, so in the case of Prabhupada also, Prabhupada expecting a very wife who would be beautiful and should be Krishna conscious, but again, for tea, she bartered the manuscripts of Bhagavad Gita. And it became easy for Prabhupada. That is what Prabhupada writes. So all this is arrangement of the Lord for his devotee to bring in so that the world can get benefited. So Chakrabal writes, he understood that his son would be a cause of developing a taste for renunciation. The Lord being merciful, wanting to bring me to his lotus feet. Though I am blind with material enjoyment, has given me this son. This was his understanding. This is a very nice process. Many times. So this is how, even in Kali Yuga, when you come to Bhakti, many times in our case, it may happen that many times when devotees come across some material difficulties, this should be the thought process. Yes, Rishi Kumar.
So, in one of the classes of a senior devotee, I heard one story. Can you allow me to speak that?
Yes, 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 yes.
He said there were three devotee friends. He was just going by. They were their friends from childhood. Later on, all of them became devotees, and they were walking and they were just sharing each other's realization. So one said, one situation like Tukaram Maharaj. So he said, what should I tell you? When I go to my home, it is all a big problem because she doesn't cooperate in devotion anyway. So it's good that Lord is merciful and given me such a wife, because of which I have no attachment to family life. The other friend says his situation was different. He was also Grahastha. He says, what should I tell you? When I go to my house, my wife keeps the house very blessed. We have an altar and deity in the house and very blissful, just like Bhaktivinoda Thakur. जे दिन अमी गए थे गोलोक भाई like that. So I am so grateful to Lord that He given me such a cooperative wife. And third was actually saying that I am a brahmachari. Lord has kept me brahmachari, not in this good or bad only. So the devotee was saying that all the three persons have different situations, but all are grateful to the Lord and finding this as a blessing of the Lord.
Yes. So that way should be the mode of a devotee. Whatever situation comes in his life, he should be grateful. Then he will be blessed. Otherwise, he'll become grateful. Because we should be able to see the hand of Lord. Then again, Prabhupada writes in the purport here, the king began to think in terms of attachment and detachment from one's material home. Prahlad Maharaj, the material home is compared to a blind well. The man falls in a blind well. Again, Gram Andakupam. So Prabhupada writes about that. Very difficult to practice bhakti. So one should go to the forest and take shelter of the Lord. So he speaks about Vanaprastha, Sannyasi according to Vedic time. They should take out and go home to the forest. But people are so attached to their homes that even after the point of death, they do not like to retire from home. So King Anga, therefore, thinking in terms of detachment, accepted his bad son. I'm reading this one, last 4 lines. Accepted the impetus from detachment from the home life. He therefore considered his bad son his friend since he was helping him become detached from his home. Ultimately, one has to learn how to detach oneself from the attachment to material life. Therefore, if a bad son, by his bad behavior, helps a householder to go away from home, it is a boon, provided he becomes Krishna conscious. एवं स निर्विण्णं मनर्पो गृहान् निशीत उत्थाय महोदयोतयत् अलब्धनिद्रो अनुपलक्षितो नृभिर्हित्वा गतो वेन सुवं प्रषुप्तमम्. Yes, Rishi Kumar, please read. We have 2 more verses to end this chapter.
So I am eating something. Sorry, please excuse me.
Okay, you are honoring Prasad.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, Yogini Priya Mataji, please continue. I could not see you. I know you want to read. You are eager to read.
Thinking like that, King Anga could not sleep at night. He became completely indifferent to household life. Once, therefore, in the dead of the night, he got up from bed and left Vena's mother, his wife, who was sleeping deeply. He gave up all attraction for his greatly opulent kingdom and unseen by anyone. He very silently gave up his home and opulence and proceeded towards the forest.
So Mahodayodayat Grahat means here I'm showing in the screen. Chakruspas writes, from the house manifesting great wealth. Mahadayodayat Grahat. Vena Swam means the mother of Vena, Sunita. And she was deeply sleeping. He changed his clothes and left. So Prabhupada also writes in this verse. You can read that purport.
Okay, purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In this verse, the word Mahodaya indicates that by the blessings of a great soul, one becomes materially opulent. But when one gives up attachment to material wealth, that should be considered as an even greater blessing from the great souls. It was not a very easy task for the king to give up his opulent kingdom and young, faithful wife. But it was certainly a great blessing of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that he could give up the attachment and go out of the forest without being seen by anyone. There are many instances of great souls leaving home in this way, in the dead of the night, giving up attachment for home, wife, and money.
विज्ञाय निर्विद्य गतं पतिं प्रजा पुरोहितामात्म्य सुहृद्गणादया विचिक्योर ऊर्व्यम् अतिशोककातरा यथा निगूढं पुरुषं कुयोगिना. Yes, read Mataji.
When it was understood that the king had indifferently left home, all the citizens, priests, ministers, friends, and people in general were greatly aggrieved. They began to search for him all over the world, just as a less experienced mystic searches out the supreme soul within himself.
Yeah, so like mystic search, super soul, all the dependents, ministers, everybody was searching, but nobody could find him. The example of the yogi searching for the hidden Paramatma indicates that on that day, king remained secretly somewhere in his own city. Therefore, that word Kuyogina comes. Yes, read the purport, Mataji.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The example of searching for the super soul within the heart by the less intelligent mystic is very instructive. The absolute truth is understood in three different features, namely impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and the supreme personality of God. Such Vyodginaha or less intelligent mystic can be mental speculation reach the point of the impersonal Brahman, but they cannot find the super soul who is sitting within each living entity. When the king left, it was certain that he was staying somewhere else. But because the citizens didn't know how to find him, they were frustrated like the less intelligent mystic.
अलक्ष्यन्त पदवीं प्रजापतेर्हतोद्यामा प्रत्युपश्रुतते पुरीं ऋषीन् समेतान् अभिवन्दया साश्रवा न्यावेदयं पौरवा भ्रातर्विप्लवम्.
When the citizens could not find any trace of the king after searching for him everywhere, they were very disappointed and they returned to the city, where all the great sages of the country assembled because of the king's absence. With tears in their eyes, the citizens offered respectful obeisances and informed the sages in full detail that they were unable to find the king anywhere.
Yes. Thus ends the commentary on the 13th chapter of 4th canto of the Bhagavatam for the pleasure of devotees in accordance with the previous acharyas. So here we conclude our 13th chapter. So thank you so much. It's just 1 minute to go for 4:30. We complete 13th chapter now. So tomorrow Samarpan Gopal will take. Tomorrow day next Saturday, Sunday. Then we'll see on the 11th. Mostly I will only take. Then 12th we have our exam. After that we have 12th, 18th, 19th. I think we have Yatra from 21st. So 18th, 19th might be difficult because you might be traveling. So how many are traveling on 18th?
Prabhuji, we are traveling 180.
Okay, no issue. This is all of your Bhakti Vaibhav course. We are just facilitating all of you. So till 12th we'll have exam, and then 18th, 19th will not have anything. 31st, 26th will come back. So first and second I'll inform because that will be the last week of Kartik.
So, Prabhu, this exam is on the third canto last minute, right? It is not still on the fourth canto.
Yes. We are going to wind up. Before Yatra, we'll cover all the previous sections.
Okay.
Part 1. Bhakti Vaibhav. Then we'll start after the Yatra, we'll start with new unit. And after Yatra, also those presentations, OBAs for the first 3 cantos, we will take. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada ki, Usit Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, same time 2:30, Samarpan Gopal will take the 14th chapter.